purposes.
Oh boy.
RC.
Oh boy. Y'all that know me, you should pray. Oh, good evening, everybody. So many familiar faces. For those of you who don't know me, my name is R.C. Williams, and we'll do a couple of housekeeping things before we jump in to this guy. I always say this, and those who come to Tech Savvy Seniors hear this a lot, so please just entertain me. I feel like the Oracle in the Matrix. Every time I see you, it feels like I have bad news. And I'm sorry about that. But there's hope. Okay, so let me do housekeeping number one. I always get questions about my shirt. Where'd I get it? What does it mean? I got this in Philadelphia about 2 years ago. This design was Ben Franklin's original design in the 1750s, designed to get the colonies to take up arms in the French and Indian War. You've seen a color version of this. It was later used to get the colonies together in the fight for independence and to come on board with the Constitution. Thus the join or die, and you see the snake with limited colonies. So that's out of the way. If you'd like one, you could go to Philly, or you could just go on the interweb, and you can track one down that way. Either way is fine with me. The second one, Darrell mentioned this note. You guys have some paper in front of you. I'm just going to point out the two things that annoy me to no end, and I think you'll agree with me. So let me put on my spectacles. Young people in the room, this is what happens when you turn 50. So just, yeah, okay. I just wanted you to know because you're going to get there eventually. So, yeah. I just gave it away, didn't I? Now y'all know how old I am. Okay. Thank you. So what's a fiscal cliff? A fiscal cliff refers to a significant, abrupt, and scheduled change in government spending, taxes, or both. What that means is what Darrell said earlier. We're about to go over a cliff. Here's the other one that bothers me. Key dates in 2025. First day of the year, debt limit suspension ends, but extraordinary measures, keep that in mind, that's a government made up word to spend your money, provide several additional months. So part of the reason that we're here outside of Kamalaquance and her ability to word salad is because of governance. Government is the function. Governance is us watching the watchers. Everybody get that part? Where you're at today is a symptom or a lack of the governance process by us. The responsibility on how we look today ultimately falls to us and everybody else who either does or does not vote or is not active. Now, in some of this, I'm preaching to the choir because most of you in this room are already active. You're here. You've made phone calls, you've knocked doors, you've done these things. But we don't look this way by accident. Some of this is by design. We're getting a lot of help to get pushed towards the cliff. But what you take away from tonight, and I have some asks for you later, but the big one is take what you learned tonight and just focus your energy on one more person. Now, we're recording this, so you'll be able to share it with them. For those of you who don't know, and I'll get to the more details later, Juliana and I do two things. We have a weekly TV show on the Beck TV network that's an hour. We tape it on Wednesdays, and it airs on Sunday nights. We've also started the Watchmen Brief podcast. This is going to be the episode. So congratulations, you're on candid camera. Your face isn't going to be on camera, it's back there. But we need for you to empower one more person. Instead of like saying, I got to go talk to 20 people, focus on one. And the one you focus on should be the one that is either inactive, indifferent, or maybe even completely on the other side, but knows something is wrong. Does that make sense? Yeah. If you focus on just one more person, guess what? Once they're convicted, they'll bring somebody else and say, can you tell them what you just told me? If you're wondering where this magic came from, it's no secret. This formula has been used against you over and over again. I'm going to show you two examples tonight that are going to make your blood boil. But before I do that, let me more formally introduce myself. For those of you who know and love me and my better half, Juliana, you'll notice that my dynamic duo partner is not here. The reason she is not here is the Watchmen Action curriculum is almost done and she's doing her final pass. I spent my 3 hours this afternoon on it, and now she's doing hers. So she sends her regards, and she said, they'll understand, just tell them what I said. So that's what she said. Okay. We're founders of a market research company, Sherlock. So we've we've made our bones, so to speak, in competitive intelligence. Our job for our clients is to help them to understand the thing or see the thing that they don't see or they don't know. Businesses will retain us for that. Individuals will say, is the market going to go over a cliff? Yes. Okay, so there's your freebie. We forecasted things, mergers and acquisitions, elections, things like that. So that track record. We also publish 2 newsletters. Rip from the Headlines runs 3 times a week. The story we ran today is about BRICS. BRICS meeting next month. They are going to announce a 40% gold-backed currency. Yeah, let that sink in for a minute. You can read the story at SherlockExposes.com. We also do We Are the Watchmen Weekly. We equip the church to engage the culture by connecting the dots between current events and Scripture. Don't worry, there'll be a QR code at the end where you can get to all of this stuff. We're also founders of Watchmen Action. That's what you saw on the screen. That is a nonprofit which can always use your assistance, by the way. Here's the challenge. There are people, there are tools. There's a big gap in the middle. Watchmen Action solves that problem and then helps you to utilize those tools in combination to get done whatever you want to get done. Good enough? All right. We also co-host a TV show. I talked to you guys about the Culture Crossroads. Our partner on that, Andrew Southwick, is a pastor and a broadcaster out of Tallahassee. We've been doing the show almost a year now. It went from a half hour to an hour, so apparently we're doing something pretty well. By the way, we also wrote a book, Empowered to Act, Maintaining the Pillars of Patriotism. That is the antidote for Rules for Radicals. Now, I do have copies tonight, except for the part where I have to go downstairs and get them. So if you want to buy a book, you can totally do that. I'll just have to go down and get it for you, and I will sign it. Okay, normally Juliana signs the books, but I will do the best I can with my terrible handwriting. Okay, all of that out of the way. Why? Pretty broad question, right? Why anything? I think what Darrell mentioned is really the setup for this, because the real question is, how did we do in the primaries? Well, let me rephrase the question. What percentage of conservatives or Republicans turned out for the primary? Kind of goes back to how we started our evening together, right? As John Maxwell said, we're friends, right? That's kind of how we started the evening, right? That level of apathy leads to issues. But if I can give you any silver lining, would you believe me if I told you that we weren't alone? This happens and continues to happen all over the country, which is why cackling Kamala Harris can actually be on a debate stage in Philadelphia tonight because of apathy. Okay? So when you ask why, the question would be, why did we do so badly? Why isn't it serious enough for people? These are all things that you have to run through in your mind as you engage. Now, Darrell and BJ do a wonderful job with feeding us and events and resources, but when you're making calls or knocking doors, think about your mindset before you go knock the door or make the call. Because whatever you convey, people are going to take you literally, okay? And if you do it right, you just turn one. You don't know how many others you're going to touch. Make sense? You guys are a great audience. So the enemy's working. Now, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. Everybody know where Louisiana is? Everybody? Okay, we're good? Does everybody know where Bogalusa, Louisiana is? Not to worry, I will tell you. It is in the southeastern corner on the border of Mississippi. Let me share something with you. We, Julian and I, were on a monthly Zoom with a gentleman named Steve Stern. Stern American. He does a very large monthly call, 50, 60,000 people on this call. Juliana and I were asked to speak. On that same call, friends of ours in Louisiana who do the Freedom State podcast, wonderful folks, were on before us, and we had actually keynoted the launch of the Louisiana Republican Assembly in January of this year. And so we were on, they listened to us. They reached out to us a couple of days after the call, and they said, you're not going to believe what happened here in Louisiana. Bogalusa is a town of about 12,000 people. Heavily black, poor, struggles, right? They said, a group came in and they were handing out rules for radicals, just like you said. Can you come on the show and talk about why this is happening? Sure. By the way, that podcast will drop Friday. I'll let you guys know. It is very insightful. It was actually, it was sad and fun all at the same time, but you can listen to it for yourself. So here's the deal. Equal Justice USA out of Brooklyn, New York. Now you can tell by the name where I'm about to go. Okay. This is what I was telling Nancy earlier. I'm like, it's going to make your blood boil, right? The Coca-Cola plant in Bogalusa hosted Equal Justice US for a day of action. So as conservatives, right now you're like, RC, why are you telling me this? Well, I'm telling you this because I told you a minute ago we weren't alone in Florida with the apathy. People don't think about Bogalusa. Bogalusa is kind of thought about like Pine Hills, right? Or up near the villages, Wildwood, right? That's how Bogalusa is in Louisiana, right? They don't care. But there's still 12,000 people who live there, right? And I can guarantee you this, a large chunk of them are actually conservative, but it's the same problem that Juliana and I ran into when we had the lab open in the Paramore district of Orlando. We found Christian conservatives in that neighborhood who said, why don't the conservatives ever come and talk to us? Exactly. We want to engage, but it seems like nobody wants to show up. And the Republican Executive Committee office, the REC, was right across the street from us in Paramore. Wow. When that part doesn't work, you end up with things like this. But please, let me continue. Guests were given a copy of the report along with a grassroots organizing playbook and a copy of the day's itinerary. The playbook included organizing models from Jack Rothman, Saul Alinksky, and the Neighborhood Anarchist Collective. Rothman's model was formulated through his background in social work and community organizing. Is this not like the formula that we see every day? Okay, they did it again. Alinksky's model comes from his final book, Rules for Radicals. We've talked to you guys about that. We'll talk about that a bit more. And the Neighborhood Anarchist Collective is an Oregon-based group that promotes anarchism and community change. I did not realize until I read this article that these two things could actually go in the same sentence. Right? Now, take a minute. Let that sink in for a second. This is the Daily News from Bogalusa. This is the story that they wrote. Wow. And they actually did a video on it.
Anarchists were upset with community rules.
Right? Except for when they work to their benefit. This is 2.5 weeks ago. 2.5 weeks ago. So what do you think is going to happen in a state that has made so much progress? Which I'm happy to say we had a small hand in some of the things that happened in Louisiana. We brought what we learned here from you guys to them. They were already mobilized. They took the tips that we gave them during the keynote and they put them to work. That's why the 10 Commandments are back in schools. They got it, right? But they're still fighting. So, okay, I want to make sure you guys got that. If you want to take a picture, great. If you don't, I totally understand. Because I didn't want to take a screenshot. I'm like, I got to do this and I got to get red and I got to, and it's like, I mean, if you can stomach actually reading the article, I'll share that with you too. But I want you guys to think about what happened here. And then I want you to go back to our apathy issue. And then I want you to think about the races where either A, conservatives did not put up a candidate, insert excuse here, or we did not support a candidate properly. And now that we're in the general, we have a couple of those candidates who are on our side that we have to do a really good job with, which is why the work that Darrell and BJ do here at AFP is so important. Okay, everybody got that part? Next logical question. You're all thinking it, so I'll just go ahead and say it for you. Right? What happened? Well, let's go through what happened. 3-step formula to how you fail. Conservatives did not do these 3 things. They didn't see it coming. Now, the logical question for me is Louisiana is not a huge state. Bogalusa is not a huge town. If the Coca-Cola plant is hosting an event like this, somebody had to know. So either they were ignorant or complicit. Now, that was my question and my challenge to conservatives in Louisiana on the Freedom State podcast. I'm sure we'll still be invited back, but I'll probably get some side eyes and under the breath comments from my Cajun and Creole brothers and sisters because I called them out. I said, now wait a minute. All the pieces are there. You know this had to be promoted. How no conservatives knew that this was coming. So they didn't see it coming, okay? They didn't try to counter the narrative. Maybe even if they had wind that it was coming, there was no plan because, Bogalusa is just throwaway, kind of like Wildwood, Pine Hills, take your pick of the underserved community, the one that wants to be a part of the mix, that has smart, capable people who want to do something, but have to deal with indoctrination every day. Who cares? Right? Doesn't matter. What are we going to do with Bogalusa? Doesn't matter. If you keep thinking that, you end up with Joe Biden. Or you end up with Kamala Harris. Because, a debate isn't a conversation. It's a debate. Okay, I'm not going to do my whole Kamala Harris. All right, third one. So then it was over. And it was in the news. And guess what happened after that? Nothing. So let's see. Conservatives fell on their face up front. They stumbled through the door like a drunken sailor sideways, coming through in the middle, and then they just fell off a cliff at the end. Nothing has happened outside of the podcast that we did and the good folks at Freedom State trying to make a ruckus. No rec, no assembly, nobody. So the burning question, well, it's only 12,000 people. If you won't do it for them, what else won't you do? You guys remember the title of this presentation? Why Your Work Matters? This isn't about me, it's about you. I'm just a messenger of the news to help you understand what's actually at stake. So that stings, right? Okay, so let's talk about our foe for a second. For those of you who have seen this presentation, I apologize in advance. You know what's about to come on the screen and you're going to have to stomach it. For those of you who are new to this, let me give you the 3 books and the plan that is ran against you every single time and we seem to refuse to deal with. You guys remember that, right? Oh boy, this guy. Man, I hope it's extra hot where he's at. Okay. Sorry. Did I say that out loud? My bad. Communist Manifesto. Marx and Engels. You think that thing's dead? That book is alive. And they run in combination. The third one may surprise you. Or maybe not. Now I want you to think really hard about the most recent thing that progressives did that ticked you off. And I want you to tell me that these 3 things didn't happen to you. I bat 1,000 on that, right? Because it's always the same thing. We are like gentlemanly swordsmen. You guys ever watch fencing? They do the foil and the mask. And okay. I challenge you to a duel. We fight like gentlemanly swordsmen. The other side fights Krav Maga style, Israeli style, close quarter combat, right? They'll thumb you in the nose or whatever, poke you in the eye, or right, gouge you in the eye, whatever, to win. We're gentlemanly swordsmen. The other side's fighting Krav Maga style. They'll get you right in the jubblies. They don't care, right? All 3 of these books tie that all together, right? So they justify, they modify, and then they run the psych move on you. Over and over and over and over again. Why? Cognitive dissonance. We're like, come on. We can beat them. If we just make enough calls till November 5th, November 6th, we can take a break. Let me let you guys in on a little secret. Everybody remember election night 2022? Remember Ron DeSantis won in a landslide and then was going to run for president, and they changed the Constitution? Okay, that's another story. Okay. Democrats lost races that night. They weren't happy. So you know what they did? They didn't even wait till the next day. Anna Eskamani is on record saying, we got started working the same night because that isn't going to happen to us again. How many people in this room know someone who can't wait for November 6th so they can crawl back into their hole and not do anything? Because if Trump wins, everything's fine, except for the part where it's not. One, you got 79 days between election day and inauguration day that got to deal with. 2, President Trump needs to be held accountable for all the stuff he said he's going to do. And there are races down ballot. Let me give you guys a quick example and I'll move on, I promise, because I'm going to have you out of here by 8 unless you have questions. So Trump wins. Yay! Say we lose the House, because that's about to happen. I don't know if you guys are hip to that or not. It's like 1 seat right now, right? That game's over. Because see, the other side, remember how they play. I'll show you something in a minute that's going to blow your mind. Know how they play. So let's say Trump wins and you lose the House. And let's say the Senate doesn't go our way either. Guess what? You just lost 2 years. You're blocked unless you can convince a bunch of Democrats that your idea is the right idea. Forget about that. So now you're down to a year and 8 months. And you're at midterms. Governor seats are up. Congressional seats are up. You got a whole mess. Guess what hasn't happened yet? There is not an established heir apparent for the Republican Party. That's not their fault. That is our fault. That goes back to the governance thing. There's that part in self-government where the self part is you. And I'm not picking on you guys. You just happen to be in the room, and I love you all, and I know you love me, and I'm not yelling at you. This is for you to take to someone else. Okay? That part is on us. Can you see how quickly we're already into 2026? And I'm going to prove it to you in just a second. Hell, we're already in 2028. Gavin Newsom is cleaning up his resume. Just vetoed $150,000 for illegals to get a house. Guess who's getting ready to run for president? Right? Duh, right? He was trying before. They were floating him before, and everybody's like, we all hate you universally. Even Democrats are like, okay, that's not going to work. We'll let Kamala Harris fall on the sword first, get that cleaned out of the way, and then it's fresh and new and young, and Gavin can come up and do all of these things. Next thing you know, you got Communismo in the White House, right? This is the game that they play. They're prepared. They already know who's going to lead them. They're about to sweep out a bunch of the fossils. Yeah. They're just setting them up to look bad so they can sweep out and say, it's a new day. That's not us. We're forward, like Kim Il-sung, like the, okay, right? That's the game that they play. And here we are. Oh, if we just win on November 5th, boy, you guys have no idea. Okay. So, now I told you the enemy was working. The enemy's been working. Some of you have heard me tell the story about North Carolina. Okay. North Carolina has a supermajority legislature, lieutenant governor. Most people know Mark Robinson, right? He's running for governor. Republicans. Governor, Democrat. Attorney General, Democrat. Attorney General is running for governor too. Mark Robinson may not win that race. Planned Parenthood's put $20 million into the state to ensure that Mark Robinson does not win that race. Okay? Now, this article is from June 10th of this year. About a year before that article, the Democratic Party of North Carolina went on NPR and said, we are going to turn North Carolina 500 and 600 vote blocks at a time. In rural places where we've lost, we're going to go to Black communities, we're going to go to Hispanic immigrant communities. We're going to win this on the ground because we've been getting the floor mop with us in North Carolina for years, but we've got a plan. They were so sure of their plan, which by the way has been working, that they went on national radio and told everybody their plan. You know why? Because they know the 3 books that I showed you, nobody's paying attention. Okay? So, they've been running that plan. Now, they're still working on it. There's some counties that are working out, some aren't. Let me take you guys back to something else. About that time in 2023, Democrats unveiled an 8-figure blitz for hyper-local races. Not just in North Carolina, but all over the country. I'll wait. Guys, notice what happened here? When you're asleep at the wheel, please don't think the other side isn't paying attention. Again, I'm not picking on you. I'm picking on the people you're going to talk to. Because they're complicit. They may be ignorant. Soon they're going to be complicit if they don't listen to you. That's the good news. And if all else fails, blame it on me. Matter of fact, just call me and say, RC, I did what you said, and this person wants to kill me. I'm like, put me on the phone. Okay, but this is real, right? So let's look at it. I highlighted 2 things here. Roughly 100,000 elections go uncontested every year. 100,000 elections go uncontested every year. How many elections in Florida have no Republican opponent? 2022, how many seats did we just give up? My brother Lou Marin from the Florida Republican Assembly, when we did our voter guide this year, we started putting a note, like basically no one ran, and the jobs pay like $120,000. Really? Oh, it's Democrat. Okay. But see, this is what they do. They figure that part out, right? The Democratic county parties are struggling to survive, so they said, we need to give them a cash injection. Group called Movement Labs, fundraising for a $10 million contest every race campaign. And they're doing it in $2,000 increment grants in the places that matter most, and then everything else spreads out. Because that's how they work. They're like a virus, a parasite. Right? They feed on a host until then they go find other hosts that the people know, and then they jump onto the host, right? This article came out in May of 2023. Did anybody in the room know this was happening? No. Right? Did anybody even know that what happened in June? Did anybody know North Carolina was in play? How many states are in play? You think Louisiana wasn't in play, but look at the inroads from Bogalusa. See, these guys understand that 100,000 elections go uncontested every year. And if they can get 12,000 votes in the southeast corner of Louisiana, eventually they can use an issue like the Ten Commandments to get a seat or two. Why?
This is like, because politics is like the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh boy, great analogy.
Okay? And when the Harlem Globetrotters go around the country and they play, no real team will play against them. So there's a sacrifice team that follows them and plays them.
Is that the Generals?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Because what people understand, we have a uniparty. And the Democrats can't control, supposedly legitimately, if there's not an opposition. So basically they control the opposition only so much that they allow us to be able to say. And that's why you have all these uncontested, because there really is not a legitimate opposition in play to fill those roles.
I hope you guys heard what David just said. David, thank you for sharing the quiet part out loud. He's right. And that's something that has to be addressed. Here's the good news. We're actually in a position to address it if we have the fortitude to actually step up and do it. One more person, right? Okay, let me keep going. I want to get you guys out of here on time. That's the one you wanted, right? What's the answer? So I'm going to break it down for you guys. This isn't a book plug, but there are actually 3 things from the book that make sense. They're very easy. I will give them to you now. First one is be vigilant. We just spent the last 15 or 20 minutes talking about vigilance. You may not have realized it, but just paying attention is big. What would have happened if one conservative with the testicular fortitude to say something would have said, Antifa's about to come to the Coke plant in Bogalusa and they're going to bring rules for radicals? Just one. Just one. Because then 10 would have said, oh no, that's not going to happen. I'm sure some folks from that town have been like, oh no, wait, whoa, right? That's not happening.
Tommy's in the Coke plant.
Ooh, boy. It's all red, right? Okay, so if you're paying attention, this is why Watchmen Action's verse is Ezekiel 33:6. Watchmen. If you don't do your job, it's on you, right? If you see the threat and you don't sound the horn, the Father's not very happy with you. You got lots of penalty coming, right? You got somebody's blood on your hands. You never want that, okay? You have to be vigilant. Even if it doesn't feel like it's important, guys, in this fight, everything matters. Every call matters. Every door knock matters. For those of you who come to Tech Savvy Seniors, how much time do we spend on Twitter? Every tweet and retweet and response matters, even if you think it doesn't. Every conversation you have matters, even if you don't think that it does. You may be talking to someone at an event and 10 people may be listening and you don't realize it. Whatever you say or do is going to matter. You don't know how, but that's not your job. Your job is to be vigilant and to make sure that you share, okay? Think different. Okay, so this may rub some people the wrong way, but I'll just go ahead and say it. What we've been doing ain't working. Being honest. These young folks right here, I bet you if we spent 5 minutes after we were done tonight asking them for ideas on how we could do better, they'd give them to us in a flood, right? If we don't take the time to engage the generation that we propose to save, what do you think is going to happen? Sorry, ladies. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but it's true. And I'm sure you could get up here and give this presentation better than me, okay? But that's the reality of it, right? We have kids, we have grandkids, we have nieces, nephews, right? We have the whole thing. Are we even looking to them to say, How can we reach more young people? How can we do this better? And then be okay with the response. I tell you what, man, asking my kids and stuff like that for feedback on a presentation is like the best thing ever. Because they're like, I love you. And I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be good. Right? They're like, you have so much good stuff. Don't blow over the good stuff. Like, that's the feedback I get. Like, we want to learn, but you're going too fast because you know we're already. Okay? If we give them a chance to help, I think we'd be floored by what happens. And they don't need to be part of a young conservatives group or whatever. No. They're living life every day. They can tell you exactly what's going on and what we need to do if you give them an opportunity. You have to think differently if we're going to make it. I have to be honest with you guys. I have very little faith in the Republican Party after this cycle. I think it's over. I really do. I just, what do you do besides flush this thing down the toilet? That's how bad it's gotten. We're not even thinking ahead. 2025, we're not even thinking about it. We're so... Rules for Radicals, Communist Manifesto, Sun Tzu's Art of War. They've got us in a box. Okay? Third one. Do not stop. When we did the call with Steve Stern, I said, it was right after the primary, and I said, do you guys know there's a get out to vote training happening this coming weekend in multiple markets around the country? Aren't you excited? And everybody's kind of like, what? And I'm like, oh, you didn't know? You know why you didn't know? The National Democratic Training Center is doing it, not us. How you like them apples? Wearing us out. See, they get this part. You guys remember I talked about Ann Escamani a minute ago? Paying me to say it. But what she said, she's absolutely right. She said, we started working that night. She said, so on election night 2022, the Democrats lost some races. It was a big night for conservatives in the state of Florida. Anna Escamani said, we started working that night for now. There, you guys ever seen Any Given Sunday? Al Pacino gives a great speech to the football team about the inch. Whoever wants the inch more wins, right? These guys are willing to fight for the inch and go to last mile. I think we're better at it. We've just kind of been in this place where we don't think we need to do that. I have news for you. You do. And you need to put them on notice that you will. Because you know what they'll do? Because they're cowards. They'll back up, they'll fold up their table, and they'll walk away. Right? If God's on your side, that's a whole nother matter. Okay, let me land the plane. So we've got the book. I'm not going to go over that. We're also working on the curriculum for this. So what I just shared with you guys is a preview of what happens in a Watchmen Action training, right? We get real first. It's kind of like if any of you have ever been to our candidate training, I do a presentation on storytelling. For any of those folks to work with us, we won't work with them until they go through that presentation because they have to understand what's at stake first. Watchmen Action training, you got a sample tonight. It puts you in a different place, and it makes the work that you do here or the engagements that you have with people very different than they are now. Happy to talk with you about that after. So I do have a couple of asks for you guys, and this is serious business because we've spent a lot of time on presentations and speaking engagements like this one. We've made an investment in a curriculum. We need help, okay? We need help. People come around, they ask for donations. You know what? I'm cool with it now. We need your help. Okay, that's a big one. In order to do this work in other places, because we get asked all the time, and we were asked again yesterday to lobby for the new versions of the sound money bills that are going to be in the Florida legislature this year. Travel, hotel, consulting time, all of these things. You guys know Juliana and I, we've come out of pocket on a lot of stuff. We've got some great donors, some people in this room who have supported us. We need more of that in order to do more of this work. Folks in Louisiana want us to come back and train. Guys, we do 5 cities over 5 or 6 days. That's time away, all those things. We need the help. Second one, anybody that you know that you think would enjoy this presentation or at least stomach it long enough to be able to be ready to teach somebody, we would love to talk to them, okay? We're happy to speak and train. We will go anywhere, have bag, we'll travel, because the mission's more important than anything else. We'll figure it out. Okay. Number 3, share this, what you learned tonight, this presentation as it turns into a podcast. Share it with everyone you know. Because ultimately, like I told you guys earlier, if this equips you to reach one more person, just focus your energy on the one person that you know you need to talk to, because everybody in this room, including me, has that person where I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. But you got to do it because you got the call from the boss, right? The boss told you got to do it. You're now equipped to have that conversation. Have it because you don't know what's on the other side. The work that's trying to get through you is really important and could make the difference. And I'm not talking, the national races are what they are. It's whatever. I want you to think about what's happening here. Everybody know who Austin Arthur is? Okay. Austin, man of God, he's in the fight of his life. His primary ended up 49%, 49%. I was texting with him on election night. Right? Yeah, 5 votes. And he's like, this is the most foolish thing ever. We were ahead, now we're behind. He's like, it's going to get worked out in November. That's how close. That affects you. National stuff, okay, great, whatever. The local stuff affects you. Who can you turn? Charlie Kirk said it best. He said, listen, if you want to win the White House, it comes down to basically 2 precincts in key counties. If you can turn 20 people in each of those precincts, game over. Trump's the next president of the United States. But if you don't do it, it's over. That's what it's come down to. Now think about that on a local level. Mayor's race, city council race, school board race. Your talking to one person could lead to the 10 votes that make the difference. If you don't believe that's true, ask Austin Arthur. Up 27, down 5, right? Next thing you know, right? They all matter. Okay? So share with everyone you know. And with that, guys, thank you. That QR code will get you to watchmenaction.org, which has links to everything that I talked about.